Story 1. Eating disorder. Binge eating disorder that went untreated because it is not treated by the National Health Service and I could not afford to go private. In the end, I battled it alone and I am winning. Now my lowest weight for 20 years. Story 2. Nothing to look forward to. Nothing like 15 years of work and childcare with very little in the way of excitement. Although I adore the kids, obviously. Nothing to diet for. Nobody to diet for. No big event coming my way. Not a self-pity trip at all. I am cheerful every day. It's true, though. Story 3. Quitting smoking. It wasn't just from eating more. It was from the sudden lack of the stimulant nicotine. My metabolism slowed down. Another reason not to start smoking at all. Story 4. Having a baby and breastfeeding. So many people told me, "Oh, you will lose weight if you breastfeed." Not true for me. It made me hungrier, and on top of not sleeping well, it made me gain weight. Story 5. Pregnancy was the first one. Went from 160 pounds to about 180 pounds. Never really lost the weight. Depression was next. Went from 180 pounds to 230 pounds in a year way back because I spent all my time in bed, drinking Pepsi, with Reddit in my face on my laptop. I was in a really bad way. Got back down to 190 with the help of folks in the Lose It community. Met a guy, married him. Years later was back around 200 pounds, but whatever. I've always been chunky. Then I got a hysterectomy and it broke me. After the hysterectomy, I was diagnosed with hypertension, became pre-diabetic, and shot up to 240 pounds. Been fighting that 240 for maybe 2 years now. Currently sitting at 225 thanks to my job, which is fairly active. Still battling the setbacks from the hypertension and prediabetes. Story 6. Fired. When I was fired, I got depressed. It was a really hard time, so I gained a lot of weight, around 30 kilograms. 2 years ago, I couldn't recognize myself, so I decided to take care of it. I started a diet and went to the gym for cardio. I'm slow, but since then, I have lost 17 kilograms, and I still have 20 more kilograms to lose. Story 7. Stress. Working in an environment that had very limited opportunities to exercise and was too cold to go outside was challenging. There was also an abundance of processed foods. Story 8. An addiction to sweet and salty snacks. I run over 100 miles a month, sometimes over 150, but there is no outrunning 500 to 1,000 per day calorie surpluses caused by sugar and potato chip binges. I have gained 25 to 30 pounds in just a couple of years. Story 9. Being put on insulin just before lockdown, there was no one available to advise me on dosage, etc. I was told to keep increasing the dose until my blood sugars were controlled. 5 stone and 6 months later, they realized I needed some support. Story 10. Was pretty stable at 145 to 150 for a while. Did Power 90 Extreme and put on muscle to be 150 to 155. Then had a kid and had less time to exercise and found myself eating his food that would otherwise go to waste and am now at 160. Story 11. Contraceptive injection. Gained 3 stone over 2 years and lost most of it again afterwards. Also being lazier and age. I am trying to resolve this, but the age just means all weight is now on my stomach. Oh well. Story 12. Mom got into a car accident and wasn't at fault. I had to break away from my life during my prime to take care of her full-time and moved back home with no other family to assist. We tried care facilities, but they gave her severe mistreatment to the point that lawyers got involved. I got depressed from having to spend all my time working from home while providing full-time care, including bathing, toilet, food, paying for aides when out of town, and keeping up with medical expenses. I had mixed feelings. I clearly cared about her, but it was excruciating trying to think about dating or doing anything while having to explain why I still lived with a parent and couldn't give anyone my all. She ended up passing away after 3 years from the injuries and infections that persisted from the care facilities. We won the court case, but not until after she died. She's in a better place now, but the stress from all that definitely made me gain weight. Story 13. I had an incredibly good metabolism into my late 20s. I had a physical job where I walked 15 to 20 kilometers every day. I did that for 7 years. Somewhere in that span, my metabolism declined, I got a desk job, and I gained 35 pounds in less than 3 months. Story 14. Antidepressants, which entirely suppressed my feeling of being full, therefore led to overeating. Gaining this much weight spiraled me down into more overweight because my eating behavior changed and also preferences for specific foods. I used to eat more vegetables and meat, now it's all about carbohydrates. Story 15. The month my thyroid stopped working, I gained 30 pounds in 30 days. The doctor was like, I think we know why your hair is falling out and why you have been depressed. Story 16. Eating more was intentional, though. I was 150 to 155 pounds my entire life, and during COVID-19, I decided to finally build muscle. I built 20 pounds of muscle in a few months. It might not be a significant amount to some people, but I had been more or less the same weight for nearly 20 years. It was a real jump for me. Story 17. Alcohol. Lots of it. For absolutely no reason. I had no idea how much weight I gained over the course of 3 years. My boyfriend was so unattracted to me but couldn't tell me. Shake my head. Forget alcohol. Story 18. I gained weight when my wife was pregnant with both kids, laugh out loud, and also when I was depressed after losing loved ones. But I've been able to rebound, remotivate, and lose it after a period of time. Story 19. Losing my friends when I was 12 is mainly where I started gaining weight. When I reached 15, nearly 16, I made a change. I think anxiety and being scared of leaving the house contributed to it too. Story 20. When I moved from a place where I could walk and take the bus everywhere to a place where the bus system is inadequate and everything is miles away from everything else, I gained a lot of weight because I had to drive everywhere. Severe depression also contributed. Story 21. Going to the gym. I always had a hard time gaining weight. I would also sit around 155 to 160 pounds, 71 kilograms, while being 6 feet tall, 183 centimeters. I would fluctuate around there, sometimes more, sometimes less. I started going to the gym regularly, eating right, and I'm now just under 200 pounds, 90 kilograms. However, gaining that weight has had its struggles because I'm naturally a smaller person. I was about 180 pounds, 81 kilograms, when COVID-19 lockdowns began in my area, and I lost over 20 pounds or 10 kilograms in a matter of months. However, once gyms reopened, I gained all 20 pounds, 10 kilograms, in 1 month. I just have a bad habit of going to the gym for 3 months, then stopping for 3 months, then going again for 3 months. It's a bad cycle. Story 22. Cheesecakes from Costco and ice cream cakes from Dairy Queen. I went on a binge eating them weekly for 4 months and gained about 30 pounds. They are delicious. I've since stopped eating them and have lost the weight through exercise. Story 23. Being in a relationship weight gain is very real. I gained 20 pounds and then my ex had abs when we first started dating and then gained weight too. It was honestly happy weight gain though. Story 24. Winter. I was riding my bike almost every day, working out and generally eating better. Winter hit and I stopped riding, lost motivation to work out, and spent that time eating instead. Still, I am down a good deal from my weight when I started riding at least. Missing the bike though. Story 25. I've already gained 45 pounds since Harris lost to the mean orange man. I was hoping she'd ramp up the war with Russia and declare herself President or Queen of America forever. But that didn't happen, so I'm super totally depressed. Now all I do is eat and play games. Anyway, what are your favorite video games? Story 26. I remember 1 year eating over 6 Yerky biscuit and Raisin Giant Easter eggs. This was in the span of just under a month. That was considered a snack for me then. Not gonna lie, they were damn good. And you bet I'm buying one this year, just one though. Story 27. Switching jobs from one that required a few hours, 1 to 2 hours maybe, of light moving to a home-based job. Apparently, it helps if you do physical activity daily, even if it's very light effort. I didn't gain a significant amount of weight, but it still happened. Story 28. Injuries coupled with aging. After my last serious injury, where I broke my arm and some ribs, I started drinking heavily out of boredom, which then lasted for 2 years. I've pretty much stopped that now. but the 30 pounds I gained in those 2 years is holding on. Story 29. A man opened a fast food place that sold donor wraps that were 75 centimeters, 2.5 feet, long. Cost around $1, so I got two every day. I also liked eating snacks a lot, so I went from 75 kilograms to 95 kilograms in 3 months. Story 30. Lack of discipline, working night shift, lockdown, and mental instability. The big one is the lack of discipline because now that I have it back, I'm going back down in weight. Story 31. Puberty, boredom, and bad habits basically. I lost 30 pounds right before high school, and looking back at pictures of me before, I definitely had weight blindness, laughing my ass off. Story 32. My consumption of alcohol during lockdown. As I was listed as clinically vulnerable to contracting COVID, I spent the majority of lockdown in my own home, and with nothing to do and not a great deal to watch on television. My drinking spiraled to where I was having 3 or 4 beers every couple of days. Thankfully, I've been able to lose that weight and have significantly cut down on my alcohol consumption since lockdown ended. Story 33. Bullying. I got bullied for my weight. I decided that if I did something about it, they would win, so I became lazier about it out of spite. Now I have to unlearn those habits. Story 34. Warehouse working at the time, somewhat fit. Suddenly stopped working while eating the same, wasn't able to move much for up to 2 years. Went from 70 kilograms to 95 kilograms at my heaviest. I'm now hovering at 84 kilograms but slowly losing weight. Story 35. Crazy work hours. I would have 30 to 36-hour shifts at the very worst, and it was non-stop go. You eat whatever you can, quickly, and overnight only the convenience stores are open. Unfortunately, that schedule really messed up so many years of my life and the way it made me inhale food and go on with the work, or eat while distracted, coupled with the terrible sleep. Depression eventually set in for other reasons as well. Looking back, I do think that sort of work is exploitative and abusive. Story 36. Autoimmune disease, not being able to walk for 5 months due to an infection in my left leg from said autoimmune disease, prednisone, and depression dealing with all of it. Story 37. Gynecologist, who is a woman, prescribed a 12-year-old me pills to take for 5 years to treat an irregular cycle, but they are supposed to be taken only by pregnant women and only if there is a risk of miscarriage. Well, if they are not hurting pregnant women, how could they hurt you? Gained 70 kilograms in those 5 years, still can't get rid of the weight 3 years later. Story 38. Quitting smoking. I used to be unemployed and a frequent smoker, which helped to suppress my appetite. Then I got a decent job, still living with my parents and still smoking. I could eat what I wanted whenever, so I would get takeout most nights. Then I got really ill, which made me quit smoking. I felt hungrier than usual, so I would order more food when I got takeouts, and I would eat all of it, gaining 30% of my body weight over a year or so. Story 39. I didn't think the little effort I put into physical training in the army mattered, but every bit counts. Now that I'm out and I don't take the time to run daily, I can see the pounds coming back. Story 40. I am honestly not sure. I gained 50 pounds in the last 6 months, even though I am eating far less and exercising more than before. In the last 3 months, I have only been eating 1 small meal a day because I literally feel full or sick if I eat more. And yet, I weigh more than I ever have. I am 21 years old, female. Story 41. Being a dad to twin boys. I don't have nearly as much time or energy to work out now that I've got these 2 little guys. I've only gained 10 to 15 pounds, but it would be nice to lose it. Story 42. Having kids, I kept getting pregnant, gaining a lot of weight, getting pregnant again, and so on. Then I developed insulin resistance and eventually type 2 diabetes. I went from 190 to 350 pounds at my highest over the course of 25 years. I have been on Mounjaro since July 2023, and I'm down 73 pounds. My A1C went from 8.5 to 6.2. I went from being on an insulin pump to using no short-acting insulin at all. Mounjaro is a miracle drug for someone like me. Story 43. Prednisone, prescription high-dose long-term steroids for an autoinflammatory condition, made me gain almost 80 pounds. Most of the weight came off after stopping the medication, but I am perpetually 20 pounds above my baseline weight now. Story 44. Living in hotels for 7 years. I worked as a freelancer on location, so no kitchen was available. After 12-hour workdays, it was either a room service club sandwich or whatever junk food I could grab on the way home. Story 45. Alcohol, getting off birth control pills, getting into a happy, stable relationship, and taking a year off from my cardio-heavy hobby. I went from 145 to 180 and I eat less than I used to. I'm done with alcohol. Story 46. As someone who lost a significant amount of weight, I looked at the main culprits, and drinking calories was a big one, sometimes over 1,000 calories a day just from drinks. Now, I don't drink any calories except for the occasional orange juice with breakfast at a diner or Blanco tequila. Drank neat. Story 47. Pregnancy and being a housewife. I used to be able to do one meal a day when I was single and working, but that's because I could avoid food temptation at work, which is crazy because I typically met clients at restaurants. But now, being home all the time and having to feed my kids means I have to eat their leftovers, or they'll go to waste. Story 48. Poor relationship with food and not understanding hunger signals. I've never been obese, but I can easily gain 10 kilograms if I just follow my natural hunger or greed instincts. Story 49. Quitting cigarettes and a terrible mindset. By that, I mean I would get home from work and say to myself, I'm too tired to cook food and work out, and besides, healthier foods cost more anyway, so I would order fast food or pizza. It is the same price or cheaper to eat clean. It just takes effort to prepare and make. But like anything worthwhile in this world, it takes effort and time to see success. Story 50. About 20 years ago, I was prescribed an antidepressant, which I cannot remember the name of. It was supposed to support the efficacy of sertraline. I increased from a healthy, for my height and build, 210 pounds to 320 pounds in a matter of a couple of months. My doctors felt that removing me from the medication with no step down was the only course of action. They considered it an emergency. My weight then plummeted to 180 pounds, and they had to take emergency interventions to get my weight under control again. I gained weight but reached 260 pounds, which I have been stuck at ever since. I have visited all sorts of specialists since, and no one can find the answer to getting me back to a normal weight again.